Let's do this, shall we? It's a newscast. Well, it's a podcast. It's a podcast with news, but no politics. None of that bullshit. What it is episode 18 of Grant Random Reports the News. And on this episode, you'll hear about rats on birth control, a guy doing weird things with sheep, and a woman doing strange things with an airplane. All of that and more ahead. Stay with us. Reporting from subterranean Brooklyn, New York, I'm Grant Random, and this is the news. A man in Pennsylvania was arrested after allegedly hiding meth in a shotgun shell at the airport. Call me old-fashioned, but I yearned for a simpler time when we hid meth in our assholes. New York City is proceeding with a program to give rats birth control to reduce their population. Rats have responded by saying it's a huge relief after they've spent millions of years unsuccessfully pulling out. A woman in Florida was arrested and charged with criminal mischief after driving to a Domino's to complain about her pizza. 22-year-old Ricky Holly argued with an employee, threw her pizza, and damaged the store's telephone. According to the police report, Holly was upset that the pizza delivered to her residence was cold and uncut, the same complaints she had about her ex. The world's smallest Rubik's Cube has been revealed and is available for pre-order for a whopping $5,300. This is one of a long line of spin-offs of the iconic puzzle game, including the ill-fated Rubik's Cube. A man in Oklahoma was arrested for allegedly stealing an emergency vehicle to go to court for stealing another vehicle. The question is whether the vehicle the gentleman was due in court for allegedly stealing was stolen in order for him to go to a previous court date. Meaning, is this dude in a never-ending cycle of stealing vehicles to go to court for stealing vehicles to go to court? And if that's the case, do we try to break him out of this, or would that fuck up the timeline, resulting in time wraiths being sent by the time wizard to punish us for time crimes? If you're not familiar with the time wizard, he lives in the time castle. He's surrounded by a loyal cast of time trolls, and according to some former time trolls speaking on the condition of anonymity, he's kind of a time dick. A German woman has ended a 10-year relationship that she says she had with an airplane. Michelle Kobke explains that upon first visiting a hangar housing the aircraft, she fell in love with the Boeing 737 and kissed it. Kobke had originally planned to marry the airplane, but says that the distance between her and the aircraft ultimately doomed the relationship. The woman claims that she and the airplane remained friends. When reached for comment, the Boeing explained that he never gave enthusiastic consent for the interactions with the woman and has since filed a restraining order. A British clergyman has died after a drug-fueled evening of sex with a priest in Antwerp, Belgium. The priest was subsequently arrested for possession of ecstasy and amyl nitrate. The deceased clergyman was reportedly visiting from the UK for the Pope's visit to Belgium. When asked about the fatal shenanigans, Pope Francis said that he was most definitely not stoked. The incident moves Antwerp into the top 5 of our power rankings for best cities to do drugs with and bang clergy. Vatican City has topped our power rankings for an impressive 4,940 weeks in a row. A Montana man was found guilty of breeding extra-large sheep. 81-year-old Arthur Jack Schubarth allegedly used sperm that he imported from Kyrgyzstan to create massive sheep, including a huge Marco Polo sheep that he referred to as the Montana Mountain King. These sheep could weigh up to 300 pounds and have curled horns up to 5 feet long. Schubarth spent a decade cloning and creating these huge hybrid sheep that were used for trophy hunts in Texas and Minnesota. The man's attorney compared his client's efforts to Jurassic Park and said these gigantic sheep ruined his client's life. Schubarth says his family is now broke and says he probably would have been better off sticking to more traditional hobbies such as gardening, playing ping pong, and alcoholism. Authorities in Montana say that this was the most disturbing case involving sheep that they had seen until they were extensively debriefed about West Virginia. While a serial shitter remains on the loose in Louisville, Kentucky, an individual referred to as the Piss Bandit has been terrorizing a neighborhood in Pasadena, California for the last 6 years.
Are you serious?
The perpetrator has been regularly leaving bottles of urine, along with notes saying things like human urine and HIV positive. While most people in the community agree that this individual is a nuisance, 2 people on TikTok who claim they are investigating the situation say they view the Piss Bandit as a vigilante and an artist. The TikTokers, Grant Yansura and Derek Milton, explain that the Piss Bandit's dedication to his craft is what intrigues them, saying sometimes you just have to let an artist pee. It should be noted that Yansura and Milton have scored over 600,000 views on TikTok for their coverage of the situation and should both have their piss tested. A German player of Super Mario 64 has set an unbelievable new record. The gamer, who goes by the handle Bubzia, completed the game's 16-star challenge in under 20 minutes and did so while blindfolded. In the process, Bubzia also set an impressive new record of video game-related celibacy. Well done, sir. Well done. 7-Eleven is closing over 400 stores across the United States and Canada. The convenience store chain says part of its decline is due to the huge drop in the purchase of cigarettes. Interestingly, a former 7-Eleven in Butler City, Pennsylvania, will soon be the location of a Tobacco Hut. Tobacco Hut is modeled after Pizza Hut, but proudly promises to offer way more cancer. 2 NASA spacecraft... Hold on a second, we're forgetting something here. This is news from the cosmos. Okay, where were we? 2 NASA spacecraft have set their sights on Uranus. Needless to say, they're not the only ones.
This is intermission. Intermission is fun. I missed intermission during the unexplained hiatus. I spent that time instead playing ping pong. Unexplained hiatus.
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 According to the U.S. Census Bureau, nearly half of all Americans report being lonely. The top 3 loneliest states, according to this survey, are Virginia, Oregon, and Alaska. If you live in one of these states, please remember to regularly gather with your friends to talk, play ping pong, and even engage in some light cuddling, because some people need to be cuddled. This reminds me of a situation that I encountered when I was living in Washington, D.C. many years ago. I was at a diner having dinner. It's a place called The Diner. It was good food back then. I don't know now. Don't ask me. I haven't been there in years. The point is, I was sitting there at the bar, and I was having dinner, and this old guy sat down next to me. Now, this guy was, he was really old. He looked like he was probably 87, and not a young 87. This is a guy who looked like his 88th birthday was going to be elusive. And look, I'm not trying to make fun of him for being old, because look, we all get old. Death comes for us all. One day we'll all be skeletons, unless we decide to be cremated, which I think is the sensible way to go, because being buried is cruel and unusual. I mean, I'm claustrophobic. I can't do that. So this old guy sits next to me, and look, I enjoy talking to strangers, whether it's at bars or restaurants, airports, not rest areas. That's not a good idea. And so I was happy to talk to the guy, and it seemed like he could use somebody to talk to. So sure, I was there alone. It didn't matter. So we start talking. He's asking me a bunch of questions. And, I'm answering and being friendly and whatever. And then he begins to tell me his story. And, he told me that his wife had recently passed away, which, I was very sorry to hear. And it's something you don't really think about, for old people. When you think about getting old, you think about, being old and not being able to do stuff. And, being in pain, I guess, or being surprised that you woke up in the morning, right? Like, holy shit, I'm still here. But you don't think about the grief of losing a spouse. So he told me about this, and I was really sorry to hear it. I was sympathetic to his situation, and he told me he was really lonely, which is understandable because, he probably been married for a long time. I don't remember what he said exactly. And, he said that he really missed lying with his wife, which, makes sense. I understood that, and, I was feeling really bad for the guy. And then and this is where things took a turn, and I wasn't, a turn that I didn't see coming. He then proceeded to ask me if I would be willing to lie with him, so I could be sort of a substitute for the wife because, she's gone and he's lonely. And so, he needed somebody in that role. Now, I thought this was a little odd because I didn't seem to be like sort of a natural stand-in for the wife because she, I'm assuming, was old. And I wasn't old nor a woman. I was like maybe at the opposite end of everything. I was a young man, a young, taut man. And I had, that sparkle in my eyes that represented hope and, optimism for the future. A sparkle that naturally has since faded, right? And has been replaced by, sort of a jaded, dull look in my eyes that when you look into my eyes, it says, that guy's dead inside. But then, it was different. I was, I had a real optimism for the future, and I thought that there were great things ahead. So whatever. And so this guy asked me, if I was interested in lying with him. And, I'm just thinking, I don't know. This is kind of strange. Like, it's a weird request of a stranger, somebody you just met. And then, it occurred to me that maybe this guy didn't actually have a dead wife. And then I was thinking that perhaps, his definition of lying with me was maybe different than, because, I sort of envisioned that he was hoping to, cuddle, right? A gentle, tender embrace, right? And I'm thinking that his idea was something that was a little bit more aggressive, a more aggressive cuddling, perhaps in the category of cuddle fucking. Now, you may be thinking, well, Grant, this guy was, 87 or so, and why, do you think he was interested in some sort of a sexual situation? The pills these days are incredible, and, so a lot of old people are sexually active. I mean, look what's going on at the villages in Florida. Everybody down there is fucking, and, they're getting STDs, record amounts of STDs, which they don't really care about because, their idea is that, well, okay, today they have diseased genitals, In a year or two, those will be decomposing genitals, so it won't really matter. So these people, they've got the pills, they can do whatever. And so this guy, I was thinking was actually maybe really there to just, to pick up a young lad to lie with. See also cuddle fuck. And I realized it was time to go, so I paid for my meatloaf and beer, and I got the fuck out of there. But look, I wish this man no ill will, even if he was maybe trying to take advantage of a young, naive, taught young man. I'm thinking that I was a little bit more taught in hindsight than I really was, but let's just go with that. But I wish this man no ill will. I hope he's doing well. Although, look, if he were in fact 87 at that point, that was 20 years ago. So there's probably a pretty good chance that he has slipped into the bleak abyss that is death. And so I don't know what happens after that. How could I? But if he is somewhere there in this abyss, I hope that he's found somebody to lie with. Maybe he's been reconnected with his wife. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's right. I don't think the wife existed. So hopefully they're in the abyss. Maybe it's the shadow zone. I don't know. Wherever he went, he found somebody, to lie with and or cuddle fuck. The shame of it is that the guy was too old, in this realm while he was still... before he became a ghost or a spirit, they have apps, or at least they did. They had some cuddling apps. But I think they were apps for meeting people to cuddle without the pressure of having sex. There was, I think, Cuddler and Spooner, although I believe they shut down because I think that, people were really, maybe taking the approach that the old guy did, where there was a different definition of cuddling. There was a lot more cuddle fucking that was expected than what the intention was. So good luck to that old guy. I don't know. He's probably not hearing this. There in the void. So be kind to lonely people. And if they ask to cuddle, ask them to be more specific because it's important. Thank you for listening to episode 18 of Grant Random Reports the News. As always, I ask you to subscribe on the platform that you're listening to, if you haven't already, whether that's Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, etc. Also, leave a 5-star rating if you could do that, and a review. That would be cool. I don't think it's too much to ask. I should also point out, and I don't think I mentioned this before, but the podcast is now on YouTube. And or YouTube Music. I guess it's all the same, right? Every episode except for one is up there. One of the episodes got flagged because there was some story about a place that was having problems. They were having mishaps doing the lethal injection. And the joke was something about the executioner having an erection. And I don't know. They said that was medical misinformation. And then I appealed it and they doubled down. I don't know. Look, I don't make the rules over there. I'm just trying to put it on the platform. So you can find us on YouTube and connect with me at Grant Random in all the places, if you would, please. And thank you again for listening to the podcast of choice of Cuddle Fuckers worldwide. This has been a production of Idiocy.